this problem, we're asked to find the tension in the three different cables pulling away from the center point at A. So to start, we will begin by drawing a free body diagram of ring A, starting with the ring. This will be tension C. This will be tension A. This will be tension B. And this will be tension D. And I'll go ahead and label those along with the angles that are given. I won't include the angles for TC since those are in a different plane than the one we're using for this free body diagram. And once we have that, we can work on the vector components, starting with vector TA. In vector notation, that will have a x component of 0, a y component of 0, and a z component of negative 900. And that'll be in newtons. And then for vector TB, the x component will be negative TB, y component is 0, and z component is 0, also in newtons. For vector TC, the x component will be negative TC multiplied by 3/5. The y component will be TC multiplied by 4/5. The z component will be 0, and that'll be newtons. For vector TD, the x component will be 0. The y component will be negative TD multiplied by 3/5. The z component will be TD multiplied by 4/5. And that will also be in newtons. Now we can move on to the sum or governing equations and start with the sum of the forces in the x direction and make that equal to 0. And for that we get negative TB minus TC multiplied by 3/5 is equal to 0. Then we can solve for TB, and we get TB is equal to negative TC times 3/5. Then moving on to the sum of the forces in the y direction, set that equal to 0. And we have TC multiplied by 4/5 minus TD multiplied by 3/5. And that's equal to 0. We can solve for TC, and we get that TC is equal to TD multiplied by 3/4. And for the sum of the forces in the z direction, we'll set that equal to 0. And we get TD multiplied by 4/5 minus 900 newtons is equal to 0. And since we already have that TA value, we can actually solve for TD here, and we get TD is equal to 1125 newtons. And now that we have this, we can use that to go back and solve for TC and TB. So for TC, we will set that equal to TD, which is 1125 newtons, multiplied by 3/4. And we get that TC is equal to 843.75 newtons. And rounding to 3 significant figures, we get 844 newtons. And then for TB, we can plug in TC, which is negative 843.75, multiplied by 3/5. And we get TB is equal to negative 506.25 newtons. And then to 3 significant figures, that leaves us with negative 506 newtons. And there is the forces for the 3 components we were asked to find.